Hi, I'm an Australian guy living here in beautiful Minsk, Belarus, and today's topic is hot girls with ugly men. How and why does it happen so much in the East Slavic world? I want to explain to you today why it happens. So first of all, in the West, what we typically have is that people line up, a boy and a girl will line up pretty equal on most factors. So looks, probably the most important thing in reality. The boy and the girl will match up roughly on looks. You don't get a 2 out of 10 with an 8 out of 10. Like this just doesn't happen, right? Everyone's usually within 1 or 2 points of each other. And if you're not, people notice, right? And it's like, oh, he's done well for himself. It's like, oh, he's batting above his average. This is what we say, right, in Australia, for example. Now, other things still matter. Relative IQ, social intelligence, charisma, even your job, social status. These things are also important. Of course, I'm talking about averages, don't forget. On average, these things matter. Maybe one girl only cares about looks. Maybe one girl just cares about social status. Okay, but on average, you tend to find that, 5 or 6 things kind of matter the most, and looks is like the first hurdle. Couples match up on looks. Now, inherently, it means that both the man and the woman have value, right? They both have value to each other. And people are just trying to get a good one, or at least equal to what they are. Now, this is, of course, is subconscious, right? It's instinctive. People aren't getting a spreadsheet out and trying to work out who's the best match for them. It's instinctive, but that's what's happening, right? The algorithm inside of us is trying to get the best match, or at least the highest quality, should I say, the highest quality given our constraints, which is our personal dating values. So when you meet someone who's kind of, towards the top of your range of what you can reasonably obtain based on your experience, you kind of get more interested in them, right? It's just in us to do that. So this is kind of what happens. Now, let me contrast this with places like Belarus in particular, but also, Russia, Ukraine to an extent as well. So here, for the woman, the same thing still kind of holds, right? The attractiveness of the woman is important. That's for sure. But for the guy, look, guys aren't really valued just for being a guy here. So the woman still gets that default value, but the man kind of doesn't. Certainly not to the extent they would in a more egalitarian society, right? Now, I am aware in the West things are changing as well, and you'd probably argue that a woman's value is now higher than a man's value, right? But nonetheless, we still kind of have this basic concept, as much as it's fading. It's still kind of there, right? So if you're a guy and you want to get a more attractive girl, you increase your quote-unquote sexual market value, right? You go hit the gym, get a better job, develop some social skills, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of been the thing that everyone's talking about the last kind of decade as it relates to dating in Western countries. Now here it doesn't work like that. So a woman's value is almost entirely on her appearance, and a man doesn't really have value, or at least the desirability of a woman from a woman towards a man, like his desirability to her, is based a little bit on SMV, but not much. Some girls will value SMV a little bit, some don't value it at all. But what does kind of take over here in terms of important is serviceability and what you can do for the girl and how you can make her life better. So she doesn't really, on average, doesn't really care too much about the guy. Even his social status, looks, all this stuff, it doesn't actually matter that much. Some girls it will matter a bit. Some girls, especially hotter girls, thottier girls, it doesn't matter at all, really. They couldn't give a shit. They just want to get the most from you. And when I say the most from, it's not this narrow view of they're all money hungry gold diggers. That's not what it is. Yeah, the hotter ones are a bit like that. Yes, they're much more transactionally minded. Yes, they'll never really love you or even like you. But they'll stay with you for the benefits they get from you, right? This is the hardcore reality. Now again, these are the more transactional ones. The more thotty ones. That's their mentality. So what you'll see is a lot of thotty girls, really hotted up thotty girls with just really bad looking dudes. Like the visual mismatch is amazing. And again, it's because the girl doesn't want to match. She doesn't value men. She doesn't value them. She doesn't give a shit. Doesn't care. An 8 is a 2 in terms of looks. She couldn't care less. What can you do for me, right? So it's a very matriarchal society. It's about what can I get from the man, whereas the man values the woman. So it's a difference in mentalities between the genders here that we don't really have in a more egalitarian Western society, such as Australia. Now, what about normal girls, like the ones that aren't thots, which is still the majority, sizable majority? Well, for them, they kind of start off just not interested in boys, and typically what happens is the boy just kind of lurks around. Right? Young boy just lurks around, until she kind of just gives in and grows some affection for him, and over time, and then they kind of get together. Yeah? It's kind of how it works. And then once a girl's had a relationship, a normal girl, I'm talking about normal girls now. Once a normal girl has a relationship, after she's broken up from that, she then kind of understands the value of a man. So she changes a bit, and then SMV becomes more important. But when she's kind of a nervous 16 or 18 or even 20-year-old, I've heard a lot of girls describe themselves as asexual, and that's true. It's true. They certainly don't. Deep in the Soviet culture is a lot of this kind of men and women are the same. And they're kind of raised the same. I mean, if you were talking to a man or a woman, apart from the depth of the voice, if you were blindfolded, it could take you several days to work out if you're talking to a boy or a girl, to be honest. The mentalities are very similar in a lot of ways. I'm not going to be popular for saying this, but this is just the truth, right? This is how, on average, again, it's an averages thing. Not everyone's like this, blah, blah. But you'll see, if you spend time here, you'll certainly see that the woman is more often leading than the man is. Probably 80-20, I reckon. He is kind of servicing her. And I've seen this taken to brutal extremes, man, I have to say. Shocking extremes coming from an egalitarian society, to see the level of simping and degradation some young men go through. Some are really extreme. The woman really tests him out. How loyal and servitude will this guy be? Let's just put him through the test for 6 months. Oh, sorry, you didn't pass. Let's try another one. So it sounds a bit cynical, a bit dark, but this is what I've observed here. But as I say, if it's a normal girl and she's had a relationship already, that part of the thing that makes her interested in guys then becomes linked to SMV a bit more, yeah? And then for thots, the more transactional thotty girls, hotted up ones, for them, they will seldom ever really love a man. But if they do, it's some sharp, fast, impulsive love, yeah? And these girls often fall in and out of what they believe is love very quickly, intensely in, intensely out. And for every other guy they meet, it's just serviceability. So they really got this, what's referred to as the dual mating strategy by a lot of people, which is just basically saying that women have two core objectives from a man. One is the genes and related to appearance, and one is the resources. I mean, I don't think anyone really entirely disagrees with that. There's definitely some validity to this idea. But girls in this part of the world, because they're so liberalised, because they don't have that kind of gendered social order here, girls here have really kind of mastered this. Or the transactional girls have. The normal girls don't, right? Just the everyday kind of girl. They don't have this kind of dual mating strategy, if you will. This idea of, I both want the alpha and the beta, right? This is simple terms. Attracted to the beta sexually, to the alpha sexually, attracted to the beta for stability and resources. The thottier girls here have this down pat, really down pat. So I hope this explains it to you. Hope you understand now why you end up with massive mismatches here, and it's the girl's closedness to men, right? A normal girl's closedness to men before she has her first boyfriend that kind of actually really fucks her up, because then she just ends up with any dude, the dude that happened to simp for long enough. And that's kind of how people get together. Now, not everyone gets together this way, yeah? I'm just contrasting one big facet of what I've seen here so many times. Goodness, so many times. And I've never witnessed it in Australia. Maybe there's a slight generational change occurring all the way around the world, that's no doubt. But the cause of these two cultures are very different. So I hope that explains to you why you end up with absolute models with kind of fat guys with faded torn t-shirts. This is why. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. This kind of video is always a bit controversial. People like to get triggered and upset and emotional. So feel free to unload your frustrations and anger on me. I look forward to reading your comments.